Do you realize you're fighting an illusion? That what you're fighting?
Oh, I'm not fighting an illusion. I deal with it every
real?
day. I confront it every day. People of color confront it every day.
How do you know what white people are imagining?
Because we talk to them, Jesse.
And what do they tell you?
Oh, they tell us all kinds of things. When we do these studies, we talk to hundreds of students across colleges and universities all across the country.
And they tell you what?
They tell us a lot of different things. So the first thing that they tell us is they mischaracterize the extent to which they feel people of color are having a positive or equitable experience at their college or university, which is clearly refuted by the hundreds of students of color who tell us otherwise. All right.
How
so
when
we're talking
know
about
you're not making that up? Charles, you want to eliminate whiteness. Is that true?
I want to destroy whiteness, to be more specific, yes.
And what is whiteness, and why do you want to destroy it?
So whiteness is an ideological construct, right? It's an ideology. It's a set of behaviors and beliefs and practices that not only normalize the white way of seeing the world, but the white way of doing society. And so that structure has proven to be violent towards people of color because it's the norm. It's the norm and standard by which we are judged, which is an inaccurate one. Now, to be sure, that is not to conflate whiteness with white people, although all white people do benefit from whiteness, and there are people of color and black folks as well who adopt ideological positions that are consistent with white supremacy.
Why do black people see white, well, most blacks, not all, the good ones don't, but why do most black people like yourself see white people as supreme over them?
I think that, again, is a mischaracterization. It's not about individual white people, but a larger system and structure that provides certain sets of unearned privileges and ascribed status to white people and white bodies and those that adopt white ideologies.
I'm not understanding that. And Sarah, make it a little simpler for me and the people who are listening and watching.
Well, let me break it down. Let me break it down like this.
You see white people as supreme over you.
We don't.
You guys have spent 60 years complaining and watching and complaining about white people, where in the good old days when men were men and boys were boys, blacks were not doing that. They went out.
When was this time, Jesse? Please enlighten me and the listeners. When was that time?
Before the civil rights movement.
Really?
Blacks went out. They built their own universities. They bought land. They created businesses.
Some did, but most could not.
All people are not going to do anything.
No, but I'm talking about the
But let me just
system.
finish the point.
It's
not true that the system didn't enable them to do it, because even when under Jim Crow laws, and I grew up under the Jim Crow laws in Alabama.
Yeah, as did my father.
And black people were better off then than they are today, in that they were more independent. Black men were not acting like little girls and complaining about the white man. They went out and proved that they were men themselves. And now you have adult black men looking at white men and just complaining like little girls. I mean, why do you see white people as supreme over you? Yes, you do.
No,
you just said it here.
No, I didn't. White supremacy is a structural issue. Now, white people, and some white people, not all, some white people do feel that they are superior to black people.
No, you feel that they are.
No, I don't.
They don't feel that way.
No, I don't. We've made it very clear that we don't feel that way.
White people do not feel that way.
You can't speak for all white people. You ain't even white, Jesse.
The blacks who are
insecure,
the blacks who are insecure feel that white people.
That's not true. We're not talking about white people. We are talking about structural racism, Jesse.
You're projecting.
We're not projecting.
Yes, you are.
No, we're talking about systemic racism. You have a beautiful placard here that talks about drinking fountains.
Right.
And so when white folks are legislating where black people can get access to water, that is a structural form of racism.
But even when they had for colors only drinking fountain, for white only, blacks were still doing better today than they are today, because the men were not sitting around whining like little girls talking about white people holding them back.
When you're talking about black men in particular, you're now saying and suggesting, which again, based on the evidence that you have, is that black men are always the head of the household, and we know that not to be true. We know that we have matrilineal and matriarchal, which means they're headed and run by women.
They were head of the household before they turned their lives over to the Democrats.
All black men were not head of households,
Not
Jesse.
all, most were.
Most were not either.
When I was growing up, most black men were head of their household.
And that's what we call anecdotal evidence, Jesse. You are in the case of one. You cannot be representative of all black folks.
Now they're not, because they've allowed the black women to take over.
No, they haven't. The reason there are less black men in households is because of mass incarceration.
That's not true.
It is true, Jesse. The evidence is clear. The data is there.
No, they're not the head of their household because their mothers have taken away their masculinity and turned them into girls.
That's actually not true either, Jesse.
It's a girly thing to do for a black man to sit around and point his finger at the white man. Why don't you go and build your own thing rather than trying to change USC?
What do you mean?
If white people are so bad and treating you so badly, USC, why don't you do what they did in the good old days where black men were men? Build your own school.
Well, if you know anything about the actual history of historically black colleges and universities, then you would know and understand outside of Tuskegee Institute, where my father went and graduated, or my grandfather went and graduated. Those were started by white abolitionists from the North. Okay, so when you're mischaracterizing and being ahistoric about what actually happened.
Do you realize you're fighting an illusion? That what you're fighting?
Oh, I'm not fighting an illusion. I deal with it every day. I confront it every day. People of color confront it every day.
How do you know what white people are imagining?
Because we talk to them, Jesse.
And what do they tell you?
Oh, they tell us all kinds of things. When we do these studies, we talk to hundreds of students across colleges and universities all across the country.
And they tell you what?
They tell us a lot of different things. So the first thing that they tell us is they mischaracterize the extent to which they feel people of color are having a positive or equitable experience at their college or university, which is clearly refuted by the hundreds of students of color who tell us otherwise. All right.
How do we know you're not making that up? That's because liberals tend to lie. They don't tell the truth.
But a liberal is one thing, and that's what you're labeling me. I'm a scholar. Okay, I've spent a decade studying and engaged in rigorous research on this particular topic. I've talked to thousands of people about this. I've conducted surveys on this. And so we're not going to reduce what it is that I do as a profession.
Antifa, you heard of them, right?
I have heard of them.
Those cowards who dresses in black, they hide their faces, and they go out and attack the alt-right. They go out and attack good people.
Oh, like the Klan.
And the last one,
like the Klan.
The one that comes to mind is in Charlottesville, Virginia. The alt-right had a permit to hold a rally there. The Antifa, this group, just hateful, evil cowards showed up and attacked the alt-right.
Oh, is that the narrative?
Was that right for them to do that?
Is that the narrative?
Was it right for them to do that? For Antifa to show up and do that?
I think the better question was it right for white supremacists and white nationalists to convene and to engage in violent acts against the citizens of Charlottesville? That's the better question.
I'm telling you what happened. I'm asking you a question.
Were you there?
I'm asking you a question. Was that right for them to do that?
It was right for them to defend themselves and defend others.
So
yes.
It was right for violence.
No, I said what I said, Jesse. I said what I said. Jesse, if you're so worried about people hiding their faces, then talk about the white nationalists and the Klan that's been hiding under sheets for hundreds of years.
That's cowardly too for the Klan.
Well, then just say it. Say it.
So that is cowardly. If you are fighting for a just cause, you don't need to hide your face.
So you're suggesting the alt-right is fighting for a just cause?
I don't know what I'm talking to them now and learning more about them. But what I'm saying is, I notice that people like you don't ever mention these cowardly people dressed in black interfering with the right of freedom of speech. Had Antifa not shown up,
that's not true. If Antifa not shown up, there might have been more violence.
Have happened. Not true. Absolutely not true.
You know, Jesse, my blood is boiling right now. You know what? This guy may be a professor, but he sounds like a fool. Okay? And I don't call people a fool, but you know what, sir? You need to go back and learn your history, okay? Now, I'm asking this question. What oppression? When you have black billionaires like Oprah Winfrey, Magic Johnson, Tyler Perry, where are black people oppressed at?
You naming three particular black people that have money does not mean that all black people have money. The generational wealth of African Americans is the lowest of all racial groups in this country. I'm sure you were.
Look how far we have come, sir. Look how far we've come.
Just because we've come far does not mean we are far enough.
Where we are now.
Just because we've come far does not mean we've come far enough. And we've come this far in spite of white supremacy.
Do you realize that blacks are, no one like black people? The Mexicans don't like them. The Hispanics don't like them. The whites don't like them. Good black people don't like them.
Exactly.
The Asians don't like, because you guys are so violent and complaining.
Jesse, you black.
Exactly.
Do you
Jesse,
realize,
you're black.
No, do you realize that most people don't like you guys?
Oh, I wonder why that is.
Because you're so mean and complaining and nasty.
No, it's because of racism and white supremacy, Jesse. Yeah. It's because of the white gaze on the black body.
You need to stop blaming white people for black people's problems.
If black parents were to get married, black men and women get married, and set a good example for their children, raise them in the right way, be independent. You know, more independent than they are today, not relying on leaders or the government and others, and built businesses in their communities, would the blacks be better off or worse off?
Well, I mean, sure, if we could build businesses without them being burned to the ground, that'd be great. But that's not what happens.
Would blacks be better off or worse off?
So, I can't answer that question because it's loaded. So you've added a bunch of different things into the mix, many of which I wouldn't necessarily agree with. So I'll just say no for the sake of brevity.
Amazing.